When you start a project, you need to plan it really well so everything goes smoothly, and one of these little details is measurements, because if you take them wrong, it can go really terribly wrong. Things I've learned and how I measure myself, because it's quite difficult to measure yourself on your own, and maybe this can help you, or maybe you can even share some secrets with me so we can all learn. And that's why the comfy clothes today, to show you as accurately as possible. But if you do it yourself, the less clothes the better, because it's more accurately if you measure on your own skin. And I really think it's a good idea to have a mirror by hand, because you can have a look if you're keeping your posture properly, if you're holding your breath or not, if you're maybe lifting an arm you shouldn't, because that can really affect your measurements. If we start from top to bottom, we're going to measure first our shoulders, from shoulder to shoulder, and we're going to do it tracing a line along our back. That's easy enough. And then if we want to make a blouse or a shirt, we're going to need the width, but that's good enough as well, because it's only from our neck to our shoulder. And then around here, the chest area, we're going to take 3 measurements, but not if we're men. Men only need 1 measurement because it's only round their chest and that's it. But for women, we're going to take 3 measurements at this point. The first one, just above our bust, is really important because it will tell us where the armhole reaches. The next one is the bust measurement. Be careful with this one, because I said before that it's better not to wear the least clothes the better. But with this one, you'll need to wear your bra of choice, or the bra you commonly wear, or the bra you're planning to wear with this garment. Because if not, it will look weird. Maybe you wear a push-up and then it'll be too tight. And just below your bra is the third one, which is good because it is the line you will need to put the darts. The next one is your waistline. Sometimes I doubt myself if I should put the measurement right on the belly button, a bit above, but I saw a good trick, and it is to do some gymnastics. When you get a little fold here, that's the spot. And of course, try not to hold your breath, because if not, everything will be too tight, unless you've eaten a lot the day before. In that case, you can hold your breath and take your belly in. I remember it happened to me once that I took my measurements right on those days. You know what days. And then when a few days passed by, the thing was too loose. So in that case, you can hold your breath. And now we know where our waistline is located, we can measure the front. To measure the front, we're going to be really careful. If we are men, it doesn't matter. You just measure from shoulder down to your waistline, and that's it. But for women, you have to be careful, because it has to go all the way on top of your bust, because if not, everything will be too tight. For me, not as much, but for some women that will be a problem. I've told you before, and when I was doing what I call the French dress, which is really nice. When I measured the front, I lifted the arm on the side I was measuring, so I ended up with a long dress. It was really long on the chest area, and I didn't know why. I couldn't find the reason, and then like 3 hours later, I realized I had done this. So just be careful. That's why it's useful to have a mirror around, because you can make sure your posture is correct. And for the back, we're going to do the same, but we're going to place the measuring tape on the bottom of your neck. And now that we've reached our hip area, we're going to take 2 measurements. One just on top of your hip bone, just in case. You may not need it, but sometimes you do. Some people have more volume up here, some people have less, and you make sure everything fits nicely. And then a bit lower, we're going to take the measurement just on top of the biggest, on the widest part. That's why it's good to have a mirror, because you can see where all the volume is. If we're going to make a pair of trousers, we're going to need our thigh measurement. This is easy enough because you have to take your measurement right where all the meat is, in my case a lot. And we're going to need the knee measurement as well as the ankle. Or you can even take the measurement where your trousers are going to get. And of course you're going to need the length. It's a bit tricky because the measuring tape moves every time you try to see where you're doing, but if you hold it and then bend, that will be okay. Another trick that I always use to measure skirts make skirts is that I put the measuring tape upside down, and that way your zero is where it gets and you have your measuring right on top of your waist. And if you're going to make a pair of trousers, of course you're going to need the hip length of the hip height, and for that I've seen some people do it by sitting on a chair, and from your waist to the chair where you're sat on, that's the measuring you need. But I've never done that way. When I did the jumpsuit, I did it measuring the inside of my leg from my crotch down to my ankle, and then the difference between that and the length from your waist down to your ankle is where you get the hip length. To measure your arm length, I've seen people doing it from the neck down or from the shoulder down. It depends. I don't know which one is better. It's a bit tricky because you're locking an arm to hold the measuring tape, but you can manage. If you just put it on top and leave it there, you can see more or less what you're doing. And then you're going to take your guns out and see where all the meat is, and that's where you're going to place your measuring tape. And you're going to need around here, elbow and the wrist. And this is how I measure myself, really. Of course, there are always things to improve, so if you have any tips about measuring, just let me know, because we can all learn here. I know this is a bit of you have to learn through mistakes, and I've done that. I've made a few mistakes, and I've been trying to learn and be more careful about all this measuring stuff. So let me know down in the comments any tips or tricks you have or you use and that help you a lot, so we can all learn together. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything next week. Bye!